So you can actually make a Unity game inside of an NFT. Time to make a tutorial! Hi everyone! I've seen on Reddit a lot of posts pop up about how you can make your own little NFT games, as in building games inside of NFTs. However, the tutorials that have been provided are a bit lacking or incomplete. They basically assume you have a lot of prior knowledge on how NFTs work, how to create your own wallets, how to even build games, and how something called IPFS works, which is a way of storing files for NFTs decentralized. So in this tutorial, I'd like to take all of that and assume you have no prior knowledge of how any of this works, and we will go ahead and build a Unity game from scratch and put it inside of NFT, and it will work completely. Let's get started. Step one is to get Unity. So we head over to unity.com. Get started, I guess that'll work. But I don't want any of this, I want individual free, because that's what we're doing. Personal, get started, thank you. Download for Windows. Keep. So once that is done, we're gonna go ahead and run it. So, you agree to terms of course you agree to terms and conditions, what kind of question is that? And that installs the hub. Run Unity Hub. It will ask us to allow access, which we will, and it will offer to install a version of Unity. Now, we're actually not going to do this. We're going to go skip installation because there's a few extra tidbits that we need. So we're going to click Install Editor. We will select the recommended long-term support one, the recommended version. If there's a newer version when you're doing it, you pick that one. Install. And this is where it's important. You will want Microsoft Visual Studio Community Tools edition thing, because that's the thing that we code stuff in order to make the game do things. You do want that. You don't want any other of this apart from WebGL build support. So NFT games are basically gonna be HTML web games. The WebGL build support allows us to convert a Unity game into a game that runs in a browser, which is basically what we're doing. So we'll need that in order to build. Don't need the documentation. I think that's it. Click continue. I have agreed to Visual Studio Community Team license, blah, blah, blah. Install. And I'll catch you all in a bit when this is done. Alright! It finished installing. That's great. Let's see, installation complete. Yay. Okay, cool. So that's our Unity installation done. Projects. Ignore these. You have not seen anything. The project. Sure core selected, and then click on 3D. Neat. Don't select any of the URP, DRP. They might work. I do not know. I don't want to find out today. And give it a name. What should we name it? NFT Cube. Probably. Create project, and then we'll wait some more until it creates the project. Be back with you later. Cool. Sure. What do we want to do? Let's start creating some stuff. So right click on this panel on the left and let's create 3D object cube. We have cube. Cube is nice. Cube is life. Cube is love. Ooh. One other thing we might want to add is a floor. So let's go ahead and create 3D object quad. Quad is just like a panel. It's very simple. It's very basic. It consumes pretty much no RAM. Invert it by 90 degrees so it's flat. And let's make it slightly bigger. Let's call it 100 by 100. Actually, no, let's call it 10 by 10. Fair enough. And on the cube, I want to go here, add a component, type rigid body. Fantastic. This basically allows our cubes to have physics, like it will bounce against the floor, it will tumble, etc., etc. It should be very neat like that. And use gravity because we want it to fall. And honestly, for starters, let's see how that works. Press play. Cube go flat. I mean, you can't really get any more basic than this, but cube has gone flat. Duplicate. What I would like to do is to move the camera so that I kind of have this perspective on the game, because I kind of like it, don't know why. So what I want to do is asset, game object, align with view. Excellent. And now you can see, after pressing align with view, it now is looking at the cube from the same perspective as our editor. This is fine. We don't need anything more than that. Let's start with adding some input. First of all, Control S to save. Window, Package Manager, Unity Registry, Input Manager. No, Input System. Enter. There it is. Install. This is the new Unity input system. I have a whole video which I'm gonna try and link to somewhere around here on how to use it. And that video links to another video that is very extensive on how to use it. But for now, we're just gonna quickly install it here and do some key bindings. Like, actually, I'm just going with one key, which is probably click on the mouse and spacebar. You need to restart Unity after it's done installing the input system manager. So let's set up some controls. And right click in down there and then create input actions. Call it player input. Actually, let's call the cube player, because that makes more sense. And let's call this squad floor. Excellent. Now everything has meaningful names. On the player input, double click and this window pops up, and you're going to want to drag it on the right. That's what I like to do. You don't have to, but I like doing it this way. And in here, step 1, create an action map. Action maps are basically different control schemes for different parts of your game. You can have a menu action map, a player action map, a car action map, a plane action map, and that would allow you to quickly switch between control schemes depending on what's happening in game. We only have one, so we're just going to call it cube. Yeah, cube. Why not? And the action that it does, it's only going to have one action, which is jump, or the input, click, space, etc. So let's call this one jump. Marvelous. And we have to set the action type. Technically, button should work, but I like to set it to value because I like a bit more control over what happens. And then control type is set to button, that's fine. And we need to map it to a key or multiple keys. Let's start with this. You click here, you click listen, you press the space bar, and there you go, space appears. You could use the any key, but do you really want the user to type any key on the keyboard? Probably not. So let's go with space bar. We'll just go add binding, so we can add another button. Pound. We can just select it from the list. Mouse, left button. And now if time it takes the left button or the space bar, it will trigger the action to jump. Click save asset. With that out of the way, we go on our player. And what we need to do is we add a component of type input, and it's called player input. And in this player input, we drag the action map we did earlier onto it. Lovely. And we change the behavior to invoke Unity events. And you'll see that under events, we have our cube event, because there's just one, of jump. Marvelous. To make this work, now we need to actually add logic of what do we want to do when jump action is triggered. We go add component, and let's call it play action. Nothing here. We create the player action component doesn't exist. It's a script that we're creating now to do our logic. So we click new script. It will keep the same name and create an add. And it's right here. Give it a minute to do its magic. And then double click it, and that will launch Visual Studio so we can start writing some code. Now, if you're not comfortable writing code, I get it. For this tutorial, probably best just to copy paste whatever I type, but it is probably best if you have some programming experience to understand what's going on. Woo! Okay. And in here we need to create a new method called public void jump context. I can't remember what this was called. Give me a second. Callback context. Callback context. So you'll see that actually it's not being able to link to my project correctly. This is because what you need to do is close up Visual Studio. It happens sometimes, not very often, but and then you go to in Unity, you go to Edit, Preferences, and you go to External Tools, and in this external script editor, select Visual Studio Community, save, close that, and now if you open the script again, you'll see that now it's correctly linked to the project. Why did we need this linkage is because callback context is not something that it recognizes automatically. We need to basically add a reference to it. You do this by clicking on callback context and then pressing Control dot. It will suggest using static Unity engine input action. Click that and it will automatically add it up here to know the reference of what you're trying to do. In this case, input actions. This method will get triggered every time the input is pressed, like click or space. And what it does is it tells us what value the input has generated. In our case, it should be either 0 or 1. So then we'll declare ourselves a private float jump button state. And then in here we say jump button state equals context dot read value of type float, because that's what a button retrieves. If you were to map it to a joystick on a controller, for example, it should send a variable between and including 0 and 1. So it could send 0.7 if you've only pulled down the trigger, for example, halfway or slightly more than halfway. And that's the value you're gonna get. But for our purposes, jump button state is fine. Cool. Now we know when the button was pressed. The other thing we want to do is when the button's pressed, we want our cube to jump. So what we need in this case is to get the cube's rigid body. A rigid body is basically the thing that gives it physics properties like gravity and mass and so on. We declare ourselves a rigid body globally, and then we say rb equals get component of rigid body. Because the script is attached to the cube, it knows that if I'm typing get component, it means get a different component of the cube that's already attached to it, in this case the rigid body. Now that we've gotten it, what we want to do in the update loop, and the update loop is basically the thing that runs every single second. Well, sorry, it's a method that runs as quickly as possible in order to create animations. It will run, if your game is running at 60 FPS, it will run 60 times a second. If it's running at 240 FPS, it will run 240 times a second to update the information. However, that's for animations. What we're dealing with is physics, which is slightly different. For physics, we have a different loop called fixed update. This one is basically used for the physics calculations alone, which are not tied to the animations because they need to do calculations for impacts and collisions, etc., etc. And this runs slower. By default, in Unity, it's set to 50 FPS, if I'm not mistaken. And because that's when because we're doing, in order to jump, is adding a force that pushes the cube up, we need to do it in this particular loop, which affects the physics. So, is that a capital F? I think it is. In here we go RB. Actually, let me zoom this in a bit, because I can barely see it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Excellent. So RB dot. And what we want to do is add force. And the amount of force that we want to add is vector free. Vector free is basically a three-dimensional coordinate system, and it tells you how much force you want to add in each coordinate dimension. For our case, we don't want to add any force to the x coordinate. We want to add force, new vector free. we want to add force to the y coordinate, so it makes it go up, and the amount of force we want to do is jump button state. Either 0, add no force, or 1, add some force. And then 0, if we don't want to add any force on the z-axis, which is the one going away from the camera, which we don't. Marvelous. And that should make our cube jump when we press the spacebar. One other thing we might want to do is say public float jump power equals 5. And we will multiply this by jump power to basically say, if the button's pressed and not 0, which means 1, how much force do we want to apply? In this case, multiply by 5, so we want to apply 5 force, which gives us a nice lunge. Hopefully, we're about to find out. When you switch back to Unity, it will recompile all the changes you've made. And the final thing that we need to do is on the player /r cube, in events, in cube, in this jump, you want to click add to add a new event. Drag the player from the left list into here, and then from no function select player action jump, and now the input is linked to the custom code that we've written. If we press play, absolutely nothing happens. Marvelous. Wonder what went wrong. So let's see, if we look at info. So stuff does happen. I guess there's just not enough force. That's fine. What we're gonna do is we're gonna increase this to 50. You can increase it as it's running now. And there you go. Now it jumps. And because it touched the floor slightly, it has physics interaction, so it goes in the direction of touch. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, we tested it, it works. Cool. If you edit these while the game is running, they will not be saved, so you need to edit them again after the game is not running, if you've stopped it, so they actually take effect and remain safe. 50 seems to work fine, so we'll keep it at 50 for now. But this is not exactly what I want the game to do. First, I want to move the camera slightly up. So I select the camera, and then in this here, y coordinate, I just drag it to the right. And now the camera is slightly higher up, but I also want to tilt it so it looks a bit like that. Push it back down. And that's a nice, that's a slightly better perspective for us. So one of the things that what happens is, if you press play again, the jump doesn't really actually act as a jump. As long as I hold the space bar down, it will continuously add more and more force to the cube, which is not really a jump. We don't want it to add force continuously, but it needs to stop at some point, so it doesn't continuously add infinite force. And the way we achieve that is we go back in our code. And the way I like to do it is basically, I'm going to create a variable called private float key timer equals 0. And in here, instead of just applying the force, what I'm going to say is, if and we set the key timer to 0, so it immediately stops adding force, thus giving us control over how much force we add to the jump. And let's see how this all translates. Little jump, little jump. See, if I press it short, it only does a small jump. If I press hard, it does a big jump. So we'll change that to, let's say, 200. Woo! That's a lot. Okay, let's set it to 75. Whee! So small jump, small jump, small jump, big jump, big jump, big jump, big jump. As you can see, if it's falling and I press the jump button, I have to press multiple times in order to stop it, because jumping adds force, but it gets cancelled out by the force of gravity, and depending on the cube's velocity, it basically goes faster. But that's not something we care about, because one point of logic that we should do is we shouldn't allow for it to jump unless it's touching the floor, because there's not much of a jump action if you're jumping in the air. I mean, it's double jump, but not what we want to do. In order to do that, the easiest way is to detect the player's position. So let's see, cube right now is at position 2.61. If we do play, it is at position 0.5. So we'll know that if it's under position 0.51, that means it's touching the floor. So what we want to do is jump button state equals 1 and is button pressed, and transform dot position dot y less than 0.06. So now the jump will only work if the cube is under that position. Let's see. Marvelous. It does not work unless it's over that. Now I'm gonna change it so that it allows me to be under 0.8, because I want to have a little bit more wiggle room than it currently does. Oh yeah. And what we should also do is increase this to, oh, we have a 75, let's go 80. At 150. Cool. One thing that we want to do is NFTs, at least in GameStop Wallet, which is something that we're going to do to create the NFT and store it and try it out and so on, seem to have a square aspect ratio. So just for testing, we're going to set this free aspect, change it to 10 by 10. Just add it in, add it to 10 by 10, call it fixed square aspect, or just square. Change this to aspect ratio, so it's 10 by 10, which makes it a square. And now it looks like a square, which is better for our testing purposes. And then in here, what we want to do is create UI, so it shows the text of our score. So let's see, you go to UI, text mesh pro, click. It creates a canvas. You need to import text mesh pro essential, so click that and wait. And we have a new text. Marveloso. Back to scene. So we want this text to be aligned to top center, position 0. Let me just see where that's not 0. Position 0. That's not entirely great. We want to push it down a little bit. Cool. And then we want to align the text itself to center from its own position, and now it's new text centered. Let's type in 00000 as the score. Fantastic. Let's make a script called scoring. New script, create an add. So let's first create the following variables. We'll call it this one public game object player and public text mesh pro ugui score text. Then again, select this, click Control Dot, and then select the first option. Marvelous. In here, what we want to do, so every frame, not every frame, every fixed update, so every fixed frame, we want to see if player dot transform dot position, say if it's above 0.7, player gets score. Easy peasy. So now when the cube is in the air, you get score. If you manage to get it back up in the air quicker, you get more score. But if it touches it in a weird way, the cube is going to roll off. Is it going to be it? Yay! And you've completely lost. What? To stop that, all we need to do is tell it that if the cube player action, yes, is below and needs to be above 0. Because if it's below 0, it means it's under the platform and you can't save it, and that's it, you're done. What is this error that we're getting? Get down. We're trying to read using, I don't want to. There we go. Hold on. So remember, once you've added this canvas, you need to go to event system and click that button so this error goes away. Because we don't like that error. Whee! Whee! Oh no! We can't get back up anymore. We lost the game! Yeah, that's the game. Works well. Cool. So this is how you build the game. Now we're gonna get back to our original point, which was creating an NFT game. How do we turn this game into an actual NFT? We go to File, Build Settings, select WebGL. You should have, if you don't have this option, it means you didn't do the installation correctly and it doesn't have the WebGL package. You need that. So go back to the beginning of the video and see how to install Unity with that package. Click Switch Platform. Wait a while. Okay, the switch is completed. And now what you want to do is click Build and Run. NFT Cube. Create a new folder in here called, let's call it Build. Select that folder. And now it's going to build the game for the first time. When it finishes building it, it's going to run it so we can actually play it in the browser. So the first build is going to take a while, so we wait a while. Okay, finally finished building. Click allow on this thing. And in the background, we have the game running in a browser window. Cool. But we can't upload this as it is to an NFT. First, we need to make some changes because we don't want all this white space. We don't want these buttons at the bottom. We don't want a lot of things. So, step one, actually, before anything else, is to go in this window so that in case you closed it, it was in File, Build Settings, Player Settings. In here, under Player, select the right hand thing, which is for the WebGL build, Publish Settings, and change this to disabled. And then also take decompression fallback. Close this off, go to Project, right click Asset, Show in Explorer. You'll see that there's a new folder called Build that you've created earlier, and the game is built in it. And we're gonna delete everything because we want to use decompressed. So once that's deleted, click File, Build Settings, Build and Run again. Still in the build folder, select folder. And now we went again. Hopefully this goes a little bit faster because it doesn't have to compress everything, but we shall see. That was significantly faster, it took a few seconds. Woo! No longer compressed. And it runs just fine. Cool. So now the build's not compressed. What we need to do is to remove all this nonsense around it. To do that, go into your build folder, take index, copy, and then paste it in here, rename it to index2, and right click, open with Visual Studio. I said Visual Studio. please. And now we're going to modify the HTML page significantly. So first of all, these two, do not need them. These three, do not need them, do not want them, goodbye. And HTML here, that, start typing, style equals width 100%, semicolon, height 100%, semicolon, padding 0, semicolon, margin 0, semicolon. And this basically tells the HTML page fill in as much space as you can. Copy that, and we're gonna tell this to pretty much every single element within here. So the body and the container in which the game is running, and in the canvas which displays the actual game. Marvelous. Then on in here, we want to delete this footer altogether. We want to move this particular bit of code before the canvas, because in case there's an error, we want to see it right at the top. Okay. Just align that. Down here, if you scroll a bit, what we want is to find this if statement that says if iPhone la 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 la, do not care. Delete the whole thing, including the else and everything. Save. And now, if you've closed the browser window like I did, no problem, just hit build and run again, because as we remember, we made all the changes in a file called index2.html. Wait for it to build and run, it should be very quick. And now in here, go /index2.html. Ooh, I forgot to add one bit of code, that's fine. If you go back to your code, you need to remove this line here, which was the action for the full screen button. Don't care anymore because it is pretty much always full screen for us now. Refresh, no more error, the game launches, everything is golden. Jumpy, 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 jumpy. And now the game in its current state is actually good to be uploaded as an NFT, which is grand. How do we do that though? I'll show you. We need a bit more software for this. So what do we need? First of all, let's move our final version of the game. The last step we need to do to finalize the game is to basically go in here, delete the original index, by rename index2, the one we've modified, back to index, by template data is completely useless to us, so we'll delete that too. And then rename this to, let's call it NFT Cube, because that's what the game's called. Copy that and put it somewhere else, like on our desktop, somewhere easy to access. Marvelous. What we also want to do is create a thumbnail for the game. This is needed by an NFT to display the thumbnail in case the software that's displaying it doesn't support running games, because there are a few that don't. So to do that, the easiest way I found is to just open your game again, click the game button, take a screenshot. I pressed Windows Shift S and that will allow me to take a screenshot. Boom. There it is. And save it. Go to desktop and I'll just call it NFT Cube Thumbnail. Cool. To create an NFT, we need to do a few things. Pinata.cloud. This is a interface that allows us to upload files to the decentralized network so we can actually host our NFT files, so like our game and the thumbnail, etc., etc. Click try for free. You need to create a basic account real quick. So let's say I already have one. but I'm going to create a new one anyway to walk you through the process. So let's just call me Kaizen Taranashish. We'll use taranasu@gmail.com. I'm using this. This will link to my normal taranasus@gmail.com email address, but adding the dot makes the application think it's a different email address. Put in the password. I'm just gonna select build developer because you're a developer. That's why, well, technically you're a developer. Creator I think works too, but the developer is more accurate. Register. It asks me to verify my email address. Submit code. And we have we have an account created to upload our files. Fairly straightforward. So how do we do that? Click upload. We start with the thumbnail. So we click file, select the file. Desktop. Cube thumbnail. Open. Upload. Give it a few minutes. And it's uploaded to the decentralized network. You can actually click on it. It does take a while for all these things to sync up, I found. So just click on it, leave it open, come back to it later. In the meanwhile, we're gonna wanna upload that whole folder with our game. One more thing before I do that. If you go to desktop NFT Cube and double click index, you will see that you will get this error. This is because Unity web games don't actually want to run locally from files. They want to be hosted somewhere on a server. So by hosting them as an NFT, they are technically hosted on a server, which they no longer have a problem with. But just know that if you try to run it locally, it ain't gonna work like that. You have to go for the Unity, click build and run, and then that will launch a web server locally on your machine that will allow it to run. Cool. With that out of the way, let's upload that folder. So upload folder, select. We have desktop NFT Cube folder. Upload. This will upload all the files from NFT. Only do this if you trust the site. Yeah, I do. Give it a name, NFT Cube Game. Upload. Should be uploaded. Let's refresh this. It seems to be taking a sweet time to load that information for us. Hey! It's partially there. Hey! The whole thing's there. So that's our thumbnail. Great. And this is our folder. So we've created these two. And now what we want to do is create our final piece called the metadata.json file. So in our desktop, we'll just go right click, new text document. First go to view, show, file name extensions, and rename this file to metadata.json. Yes. And then we open it with Notepad, Visual Studio, whatever you like. Make sure you type this exactly as I type it, because otherwise it's not gonna work. First item, description. NFT Cube game created as a tutorial to learn how to upload Unity games to NFT as NFTs. Comma. Image, semicolon, IPFS, semicolon, // and now you alt tab to your Pinata window and copy the NFT Cube thumbnail PNG, this CID. This basically is a unique identifier to your image that you've uploaded. Copy that, paste it in here after the //, easy peasy. Then you go animation _ URL, also IPFS semicolon //, and now you copy the CID for the game itself. Copy that, Paste it here. Also easy. Name, to name your NFT. I'm gonna call it NFT Cube. Artist, I'm gonna name myself Taranasos because I made it. And then royalty underscore percentage. Hopefully I spelled percentage right. Percentage. Yeah. 10. This line basically says that if anybody sells this NFT to somebody else, I want 10% of the royalties from its sale. You can set this to 0. You can set it higher. You can set it lower. Up to you. I think 10 is a good number. With this file created, you exit out and you upload it here. File, select file, go to this PC, desktop, metadata.json, open, and rename it to NFT Cube metadata. Upload. The names are not important because you're using these CIDs for everything, and that's the only important bit. You can name these whatever you want, but I'm just trying to keep consistent. Okay. We now have all the information for the NFT uploaded to the decentralized storage network. However, now we have to create the actual NFT. And to do that, we need a few things. We need a wallet. We need some form of cryptocurrency to pay for the gas fees necessary to create these NFTs. Probably Loopring is your best bet, but let's take it one step at a time. The first thing we want to do is create a wallet. And that's what you want to do for that is, the easiest one I found is to go to GameStop Wallet, select it, download, browser wallet, download for Chrome. I already have it, but just click install and it will automatically add it to your Chrome web browser. Easy. Then you click on it here, once you've added, and click create new wallet. You understand that it's a self-custodial wallet and that you are responsible for the funds and assets within it. You have read and accepted the license agreement. You want GameStop, help GameStop choose the share analytics. That's up to you if you want. I don't because it's a demo. Create your wallet. Reveal secret recovery passphrase. So, in case you lose your wallet, you lose your computer, you format your hard drive, you whatever you do, the secret passphrase is your way to recover it. Basically, you click here again, load existing wallet, you type in the words that it gives you, and you can recover this wallet. Make sure you write these down somewhere safe. Well, if you lose them, you lose your wallet forever. There is no recovery method. There's nobody you can call for help or support. These words are the most important thing to not lose it. So don't lose them. I'm going to cut the video here so I can type down my words somewhere safe, and then we'll continue once I've done that. Did you save your secret word passphrase? Good. Now, type in a password for your wallet. I go with my classic. It's a throwaway wallet for me just for this demo, so I'm not too concerned about security. But make sure you type a password that you can remember because it's going to ask you for it every single time you do anything with it. Next. All set. Your wallet is now ready. Make GameStop the default wallet extension. Yeah, why not? Next. Your wallet can be used with two different networks, Ethereum Layer 1 and Loopring Layer 2. So, the difference between these two. Ethereum is the main network for doing transactions for a lot of crypto coins, including Ethereum, including even Loopring sometimes. It's called Layer 1 because it's the base layer. The problem with it is that it's very expensive to do anything on it due to the high usage of it. In order to combat that problem, Layer 2 options have been created, like Loopring, that work on top of Layer 1 and settle transactions off the chain and then write them to the chain at some later point, making it a lot cheaper to run. We are been minting the NFT on Layer 2, mainly because it's peanuts compared to minting it on Layer 1, and then at a later point, if you want, you can transfer it to Layer 1 and pay the gas fees to do so, which are very expensive. We only care about Layer 2, the Layer 2 wallet right now. Click Next. Loading. Failed fetch account balance. Yes, because there is none. You are correct. So, In order to activate your wallet to actually be able to create your NFT and so on, you need to deposit some funds. It says there are no funds, so let's deposit some. How do we do that? You can use a credit card. If you have already crypto somewhere else, you can move it to here. I'm going to assume that this is your first experience with crypto, so we can buy a little bit of crypto using a credit card, and then it will be here. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do it with Wire. You don't need $100. 10 is plenty. And automatically fills in your wallet address where it's going to be sent. Select payment method. Credit card is fine. It will cost a bit more than $10 because there's transaction fees and so on and so forth. What can you do? I authorize to debit my account. Click next. Fill in your info. I'm going to skip this because I'm going to use my actual info due to it being, a bank transaction. But fill in your info and your credit card information. So once it processes your payment, it's going to do your order. And there you go. All done. Okay, so once it processes your actual payment, you need to click on track transaction status. And we're in pending state. We will have to wait until it is done sending what we've bought, the Loopring Ethereum, over to our account. For me, it was fairly quick. It only took a minute. Once you're done, once you get your funds into your account, click the Activate Layer 2 button. You'll see that there's an activation fee of 95 cents. Confirm account activation. And you're done. Your account is activated. That was an important step in order to be able to actually create an NFT. We now have an account, no NFTs in it yet. But we have a wallet that's functioning and with some coins in it. The next step is to actually register our NFT on the network. So how do we do that? Let's close all this nonsense, close other tabs. And we go to loopring.io. We will launch the app, connect wallet. We will select GameStop Wallet because that's the wallet we have. You also agree to the stuff. Click connect. Then we unlock the account. Approve. And now we go to this button, L2 NFT. One thing, you will need the Pinata site back. You wait a minute, don't worry, they take a little bit of time to actually load up the things you uploaded. There they are. And back in Loopring. Now we click on L2 NFT, click Advanced Create, and in here, go to your Pinata that you had open earlier. Click to copy the NFT Cube metadata CID. It's very important that it's this one, not this one, not this one, this one, because this ties these two together. You go back here and you paste it in. For some reason the image isn't appearing for me. Might be a problem on the Loopring site, so let's just continue. You select how many NFTs you want to create, maximum 100,000. I'm just going to create 20. And you click Mint My NFT. This will basically ask your wallet for permission to mint it. Approve. Come on, there we go. If you have a little red thing in the corner, just keep clicking approve until it works. And yeah, there you go. Mint submitted. And there they are, the 20 NFTs. Now, as you can see, it's not really a game in here, is it? The problem is the Loopring site doesn't show it as a game. But what you can do, after you go through all this nonsense, if you open your GameStop wallet and click on NFTs, click on it, give it some time to load, and there it is. Game NFT all ready to go. It's dying, it's goodbye. Okay, restart. So yeah, that's been the tutorial. This is how you create an NFT with a Unity game in it. The possibilities are pretty exciting if you think about it. You can put a lot of games in here. You can make some really interesting stuff. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to basically get to the next step of becoming a YouTube creator. And your subscription and your support would be really helpful. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!